You do know this is the year of the cicada, don't you? We got the 17-year and the 13-year cicadas coming out in the same year. All right, they said just in a few weeks we're going to have millions and billions and maybe trillions of cicadas coming out. It's going to be a wonderful chorus out there that we're going to hear in central Illinois. Because when God says, come on out, they come on out. And it's amazing how God's process is. How can a young larva or egg or whatever it was 17 years ago that was planted and laid or in the ground, wherever it is. I've done that much research. All of a sudden then, they all of a sudden wake up one April or May morning and said, whoop, it's time to go. We serve a pretty awesome God. You know, when you read of the plagues in the Old Testament, now we know, yeah, they can really bring a whole bunch of locusts at one time if he wants to, can't he? That's right. And just as quickly as he brought them and they devoured everything, they left and went into the ocean. I went into the sea. They were gone. Wow. God is so powerful. He's so awesome. In fact, in Joel, it tells us that God sends forth his armies. His armies, what are they? The devouring insects. Those are some of God's armies. You know, the men think we're so strong with our tanks and our planes and whatever. Amen. And then we can't control the earthworms. But if the earthworms quit doing their job, my friend, we'd all be in trouble. Amen. If the bees stopped buzzing and doing what they do and pollinating, amen, we wouldn't have life as we know it here. Amen. Because there'd be so many crops that would fail and so many flowers that wouldn't be here. Amen. Because those little bees that are buzzing around that you don't want in your house, but yet we want them out there. We serve such an awesome God that down to the very microorganisms that he has under the earth, amen, under the ground, amen, up in the atmosphere, all these different things, the viruses and the bacteria, amen. We talk about bacteria being bad, but it's not all bad. There's a lot of good bacteria out there that it breaks down things, and you couldn't digest things properly if you didn't have bacteria in your system. But yes, there's those strains of bad bacteria that we want to get out and those viruses that cause us to be sick. But yet God keeps things in balance. He's such an awesome God, and we can trust him today. And so Mary came to the point of decision. She had to come to terms with all the things that were swirling in her head and the questions that she had, and she had to respond to God's message somehow. And that's the key that unlocks the supernatural in our lives. We give God permission to proceed with his plan for us. We say, yes, God, you can do it. I've been in church services and saw God dealing with individuals, and their knuckles became white as they gripped the back of the seat in front of them, because they knew that God wanted them to move and decide. But yet they were struggling inside with the decisions they needed to make. And unfortunately, there has been too many times that individual that should have come forward and should have said yes to God, amen, decided to stay right where they were and even leave without changing or making a decision. And they told God later, not now. I'm not available, God. In a time that's more convenient. Amen. It's almost like King Agrippa in the book of Acts. Amen. When it's more convenient for me, I'll make a decision, Paul. Amen. Not right now. I can't do it right now. I know God's dealing with me. I know that's true what you're telling me, but yet I'm not going to give God permission. I'm leaving the door of my heart locked. When you go to the hospital for surgery or to have some type of procedure done, there's always all that paperwork, that blessed paperwork. Unless it's a real emergency where you can't sign and your life's in danger, they do not go further with your treatment until you give what? Consent. Consent. Of course, that consent also says you're going to pay for it, right? But it's consent. Because they know that if you don't say yes, then later on, you can say, I didn't want that. You can sue the hospital, sue the medical people, or whatever. And so they don't go any further. It might benefit you for the rest of your life, But if you get to that point and you chicken out and you say, no, let's just wait a little while, they'll say, okay, well, let's just get you packed up here and go back home. Even though you've been to the doctor 5 or 6 times, you maybe a couple doctors to finally get everything approved. The insurance company said, okay, you've been to the test, you've had the x-rays, you've had the MRI. You're at that point, it's time. Let's get this taken care of so you can feel better, so you can get better. Yeah, it's going to be tough in the next few weeks as you recover, but it's going to help you. And if you say no, then they say, okay, you can go home. Everything that you've worked toward can be undone if you refuse